Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I've decided to share with you another Honey Drops stories because Spirit asked me to. Um, it's about synchronicities, but it's also just about intuition. This idea of intuition and where does that come from? That inner guidance system, the inner voice that we all have that informs us of what is happening in the world outside of us. And arguably, if we are intimately connected with that world. So I was driving around in this town that's next to mine. I was with my mom, and we go to this one particular shopping center. It has a couple of big box stores, and we frequent this shopping center often. And at the corner of the parking lot of this place, there's a guy named Pablo, and he owns this piece of parking lot, this piece of land. It's quite large, and it's called Pablo's Garden. And it's not really like a garden center where they sell plants or fruits and vegetables. It's not like that. Off first glance, it just looks like a lot of junk. There's some really beautiful things. Big Buddha statues and crosses and things that look like relics, stone and metal, sun catchers and just tchotchkes and trinkets and all sorts of things. The place is never open though. It's very rare that we see the gate open. So I don't know how this guy stays in business. But my mom was always curious, and she'd say, oh, I want to go in there, I want to see. And I'd be like, no, we don't need anything in there. Let's avoid it, right? We don't need to add any more stuff to our house. But for some reason, this one day she said it again, like, oh, I'm so curious, I want to go in there. And I want to find a birthday present. That's what she said. I want to find a birthday present for my friend. And I was like, you know what? Today's the day. Because I feel like I want to go in there too. I want to look around. So we were met by not Pablo, but rather his wife. She seems like a very kind of hippie, spiritual type. And immediately I liked her. But she asked us if we were looking for anything in particular. We said we were looking for a gift for somebody, but that we would look around. And she said, okay, help yourself. Like, we'll be in the back if you need us. Just holler if you need any pricing on anything. Because, of course, nothing had a price. I don't even know. There was like 10,000 items in this lot of land. So we're looking around, and there are things clanging and making noises in the wind chimes and gongs, and just statues have fallen over, and it's just it's a little bit of a mess. And so we're gingerly walking around, and immediately my mom sees something that she wants to get for her friend, a really beautiful Buddha statue. And she says, what do you think? I was like, yeah, I love it. Let's do it. And I'm just trying to take it all in because it's a lot of stuff. And my eyes are drawn to this one small side table. And on that side table is this object. It's this object. It has like a little platform. It's metal. I don't know what metal it is, but it's metal. And it just immediately struck me, right? It's as big as my hand. It's not that big. It immediately struck me. Probably because they remind me of like tarot cards, right? Like visually, it's kind of my bag. And I looked at it and I was like, I didn't touch it. I didn't touch anything, because you have to be careful when you're dealing with antiques and things like that, that objects have energy. And so I was very careful to just kind of act as if I was in a museum. So I was just looking, not touching. And the woman, Pablo's wife, comes up and she goes, "Oh, did you ladies find anything?" And I said, "Yeah, my mom wants to buy this." Not knowing how much anything was. I mean, it could have been a highway robbery. So the lady looks at the Buddha that my mom chose and she says, "Oh, that's a beautiful piece. It came from wherever it came from. I think it's from Thailand, but I'm not sure. I can't remember." But she said, "It's 75. And my mom was like, "Great, okay." And then she looks at me and she goes, "Is there anything that you are interested in?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, yes, I would like to look at this piece. I would like to know how much this piece is." And she paused and she stared at me for like a little bit longer than was necessary, but not so long that it was uncomfortable. But because I'm observant, I read energy, and I was like, oh, I like tapped in, or maybe it was like I don't know. I said something, or this object is like a to-do. And she looks at me and she goes, "Actually, that object is not for sale." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Because I'm not going to fight for anything. It's just like, if it's supposed to be with me, it's supposed to be with me. I said, "Okay." And she goes, "But you know what? Let me ask my husband. Let me ask my husband. There have been many people that have tried to purchase that piece, but he always says no. So I can't promise anything." And I said, "That's fine. I mean, I would like it and like to know how much it is." And she goes, "Let me ask him. Let me ask him." So she goes in the back where he's having lunch, or like, I haven't seen Pablo yet. And she comes back and he goes, "He's decided that it belongs to you now, that it's found its new home." And I was like, cool. I was a little, like, at that point I was like, feeling kind of slightly strange, because it's like, okay, who is this Pablo? And why does he decided that I'm the lucky one that gets this? So I said, "How much is it?" Because in my mind, I had a number that I was not going to exceed. And she said, "It's $50. And I was like, whoa, for me, that was a steal. I was prepared to pay much more. And so she starts to talk to me about the piece. And she said, Pablo's friend got it from somewhere in Egypt. And it traveled through many hands before it reached us. And it's been in our possession for many years. And again, she said, people try to buy it and he refuses to sell it. She's like, "I'm actually shocked that he wants to sell it to you, but he has a good feeling." And I said, well, to honor that gesture and that feeling, maybe I can give you something as well in return. And it's not, obviously not this one, but I happened to have a crystal very, very similar to this one. It was lodolite, or garden quartz, and I had it in my pocket because I always have some kind of crystal on me, whether it's rings or whatever, and I had it in my pocket. And I just decided, crystals are expensive, and I don't just give my crystals to anybody. I took it out of my pocket and I said, "Would you accept this as just like an energetic exchange and a gesture of good faith that this object is coming to a safe home?" At this point, the lady started crying. I don't know why, but she started crying. So I was like, I don't know, I guess she was just like touched by I don't know. So we had to go get some cash, because of course Pablo's garden is cash only, and came back. Finally, Pablo appears. And so we say hi to him, and he says, yep, I knew that it was supposed to go home with you. And I said, how did you know, Pablo? And, you know, I told him that I was a light worker. They were also light workers. And he just had a feeling. He said that every evening he would bang on this gong. I mean, this gong was the size of like a dining room table. He would bang on it to clear all the energy from all of the objects, because he said, do you know how many times people have come in here that had very dark hearts that wanted to buy pieces, and I just refused to sell to them. I won't sell to anybody that has a dark heart. And, you know, he was saying stuff like this, and I was like, cool, I agree. So we say our goodbyes, and I'm in the car with this object. Let me just show it to you again. I'm in the car with this object, and I'm staring at it, and I'm staring at it. And I said to my mom, I don't know why, but when I look at this, I feel as though I'm looking at instructions. But I don't know what those instructions are. And she said, well, maybe you can do some research. So the first thing I did was I turned it over. And right there, it says, it's hard to tell, I'm sorry, but the glare, it says made in Israel. Made in Israel. So the wife said that it was from Egypt. Maybe it traveled through Egypt, but it is not Egyptian. It's from Israel. I don't know when. I haven't had it like looked at or anything, but I was like, okay, but like in terms of research, that's a start. It's a start. So I get home, I'm like clutching this thing. I'm like, what is it about this thing? So I don't know where to begin. So I just begin by talking to one of my Jewish friends. Her name is Mary. And I just said, Mary, rando question, have you ever seen anything like this before? And in her absolute brilliance, because she's brilliant, she said, no, but whenever I see any denomination of 12, I think of the 12 tribes of Israel. So I was like, tell me more, right? Because I don't know. So then she said, here, look at this. And she showed me this picture. It was actually a picture of a poster of the 12 tribes of Israel. And when I was looking at it, I realized that there was a crystal associated with each of the 12 tribes. And that was just like, you know what I mean? Because I collect crystals. I've been so drawn to crystals. I use crystals every day. And I was like, what? The 12 tribes have crystals? What does this mean? And it just was this unraveling. So I started to like Wikipedia search and Google search and just everything that I could to figure out, first of all, like, what are the crystals about? So I texted Mary again, and I was like, Mary, why do the tribes have crystals? And she goes, maybe it has to do with the breastplate of Aaron. And I was like, what does that mean? And it was literally like this, like that was my cadence. I mean, I was alone and I'm just texting her, but I was so overwhelmed and excited. It was like, you know how I'm always talking about Indiana Jones in my readings? It was like Indiana Jones. It was just uncovering these mysteries. So I'm not saying that I'm any kind of expert on this, but Aaron's breastplate, Aaron was the brother of Moses in the Old Testament. And he was tasked with communicating directly with God in the temple. But the only way that he could do it was if he wore this sacred breastplate. And the breastplate had these crystals inside of them in a particular order. And that he had to be wearing this jewelry, this garment, to enter into the temple so that he was safe to commune with God. Because, you know, whether or not you believe in God or whatever, the idea of speaking to a omnipotent being would seem kind of a lot for a mere human, right? So I'm reading about this and I'm thinking, oh my God. And, you know, I had started my tarot journey by that time, and thinking about how I'm channeling messages from spirit. And it was just almost too much for my brain to comprehend. So night falls. I'm still online looking at everything that I can about the story of Aaron, which is, you know, problematic in a certain sense. But the breastplate itself, the colors, which crystals are they? And was Spirit instructing me to put these crystals together? Which I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't done it because I don't think I'm ready. I probably have all of those crystals separately in my collection, but I will do as I'm guided to do. But like, I don't know, maybe nothing will happen. Maybe something will happen. I'm not putting anything past Spirit, right? So looking at artwork representing the 12 tribes. So it's like all the 12 tribes are known for, I think there's a serpent and like a castle and a dog, a tree. So each of the 12 tribes represented a certain kind of iconography or theme or symbolism. And I started to look at artwork, depictions of the breastplate, depictions of the 12 tribes, and I see this one depiction of the breastplate. All it is blocks of color, and it's gilded, so it's like gold, and then there's all these blocks of color to represent the crystals. And I was so drawn to it. It was such a beautiful piece of artwork because it was simple and yet so symbolic. And then I had this flash go through my mind. I've seen this before. And I remembered that when my twin flame and I started dating, he showed me, and this was like, I don't even know, 4 years before this whole thing came into my possession. I had dated my twin for 2 years and then we broke up. I didn't know he was my twin at the time. I mean, subconsciously I knew he was my person, but anyway. He showed me a whole bunch of paintings that he'd painted, and he converted to Judaism. And so a lot of his paintings were about that journey that he had taken to convert, and depictions from the Old Testament. And wouldn't you have guessed that one of his paintings is of the 12 tribes, and it's the color blocks. It's like the color blocks of Aaron's breastplate. And it had flashed through my mind because I remember at the time, you have to remember this was years and years that I was kind of trying to dig through my memory. I remember saying to him that I wanted that painting. would he give me that painting? And he said, oh, because his house was in another country. We were long distance, and he said, but it's in my house in Canada, like it's in my living room, like I don't want to like let go of it. And I said, but I really like it. I love this painting. It's so beautiful. And I just kept asking him for it. Of course, he didn't give it to me. But it really, and by this time I had stopped speaking to my twin. And right then and there, there was nothing more that I wanted to do than to call him. I just wanted to call him, to tell him. I don't know what I was going to tell him, but like, it was this weird full circle moment. What are the odds that he would have a representation of Aaron's breastplate in his living room? I mean, maybe that's a common thing in Jewish households. I have no idea, but I was like, I don't think it's common. So I uncovered the mystery, but I still question how I knew that I was looking at instructions. It's for you to decide. I'm still not sure, but I wanted to tell you that story because I think it's cool. And it's just one of those things that happened to me that gives me great pause and keeps me humble, because there's just so much that we don't yet understand about where we come from, but that's part of the journey. So I hope you enjoyed that story, everyone. Until next time.